If not, I think we're good to go.
I think we're live, yes.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Welcome everyone to the Town of Newington Conservation Commission meeting for November 16th, 2021. It is 7 p.m. Ms. Gibbons, please call the roll.
Commissioner Ancona,
Here.
Commissioner Bashand,
Here.
Commissioner Casasanta,
Here.
Commissioner Conway,
Here.
Commissioner Lavarier, Commissioner Paskowitz,
Here.
Chairman Sadil,
Here.
Commissioner Wagner.
Here.
Okay. And I believe the point of order, Commissioner Conway will sit for Commissioner Laurier this evening. Okay, moving on to item 3, public participation on non-agenda items. Each speaker limited to 2 minutes. Is there anyone on the line waiting to speak?
Mr. Chair,
I think Mr. Zelik has raised his hand. Please, Mr. Zelik, please speak.
Very good. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Jeff Zelik, 55 Wells Drive, North Newington, Connecticut. I just wanted to talk about 2 items. First item is Cedar Mountain, and second item is commissioners voting on applications. So regarding Cedar Mountain, it was about 10 years ago that Toll Brothers approached the town with an application to develop Cedar Mountain. They came in with a team of experts that they had hired, and that team of experts testified that the impact would be minimal. We had one astute commissioner, his name was Ray Harlow, and he put forth a motion to the Conservation Commission that the commission should request a CERT report. Now, a CERT report is a report that's done by the Connecticut Environmental Review Team. It's a free service that the state of Connecticut provides to help municipalities work their way through complex or large applications, and it allows the town to make wise land use decisions. Now, that report came back to the commission, and it provided a number of items that the commission had overlooked and the applicant had overlooked. And ultimately, that CERT report provided sound reasons for the denial of the Toll Brothers application. So I just want to recognize Commissioner Harlow. He's since passed away, but without his courage in putting forth that motion to have a CERT report done, we probably wouldn't have Cedar Mountain the way it is today preserved. So he's always going to be remembered in this town for the hard work and the help that he did in saving Cedar Mountain. The second item I want to talk to you guys about is voting on an application. I want to remind the commission that you don't always have to vote to approve or deny an application. There's a third option, which is seldom used. And that option is to make a motion to find the application as incomplete. And you do that when you don't have all the information you need to make a sound, reasonable decision. So if you're at the end of an application and the time is running out and you feel as though you don't have all the information in front of you, the reports that you might want, or you have open questions, you're not comfortable, you can find that the application is incomplete. You don't approve the application, you don't deny the application. You simply tell the applicant to go back, come back with the information you need, or if there's other information being generated by other parties, you wait until that information is available, and then you can move forward with the application. It helps you to make a more sound decision the more information that you have. So I just want to remind the commission, you don't always have to vote to approve or deny. If you're not comfortable and you don't have all the information you need, you can always find the application as being incomplete. So I'd leave you with that, and I hope you guys have a great evening.
Thank you, Mr. Zelik. Is there anyone else on the line? Ms. Bertotti? Wishing to speak?
No, Mr. Chair, nobody else has raised their hand.
Okay. Moving on to acceptance of minutes, item A, amendment to the previously approved minutes of September 21st, 2021. This was the Newington Conservation Commission meeting minutes, update of page 8.
Correct,
Andrew,
that
can
was
you
a
refresh my memory on
misidentification.
this?
That was a misidentification of the application number of a particular motion that was made.
I see.
It was just one thing and it was picked up and we just wanted to correct it.
Okay. Are there any other comments on the minutes, corrections on that page?
Yes, Chairman Sedell, Commissioner Pasquich here.
Go ahead.
Page 8. It's about halfway down. I state, okay, well, the second part then, and then move down about 6 lines, 7 lines to the left of the paragraph. It starts out saying pools was an imitative of mine, which should be spelled initiative, not imitative.
Is this on the page, excuse me, on the September 21? I don't quite see that. I see the 2020-20 line, construction activities regulated area on 203 Costello Road. Is it above that?
Well, it's on page 8. If you move from the bottom, if you move up 1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph up, I state Commissioner Pasquich, okay. Well, the second part then would be the title of this article is a record-setting breeding season.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Mr. Casasanta, Commissioner Casasanta.
I believe Commissioner Pasquich is looking at the October minutes.
Yes, yes. I see
Yeah.
that now. I've got the minutes now in front of me.
Yes,
think,
the first item, you're just correcting the minutes from September, which happens to be on page 8 as well.
What a coincidence. Okay. So relative to the September minutes, 21st minutes, are there any additional corrections from commissioners? Seeing none, may I have a motion to accept the amendment from the previously approved minutes of the September 21st, 2021 meeting of the Conservation Commission? So moved by Commissioner Casasanta.
Yes.
May I have a second?
Second by Commissioner Pasquich.
Second by Commissioner Paskowitz, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, abstentions? Okay. The amendment passes. Thank you. All right. Moving on to item B, acceptance of minutes from the October 19th, 2021 regular meeting. Are there any additions and corrections from commissioners? I think now, Commissioner Paskowitz, you may proceed.
Okay, I believe that was on page 8. And about halfway down, I started to communicate, speaking Commissioner Pasquich. And down along the paragraph, on the left side, it states an imitative, which should be initiative. Do you see that?
Yes, I see it. Do you see it, Ms. Gibbons?
Yes, I see.
Thank you.
That's all there is. Thank you.
Any other comments from commissioners? Do the commissioners feel that they've had enough time to review these minutes? I think we got them, I think, on Thursday of last week. I would like prefer a little extra time to go over them. I don't know how the rest of the commissioners feel. We just want to table this and approve this at our next meeting. If, because it's quite a lengthy document.
Commissioner Wagner, I'll second that. I need a little time too.
Thank you. I do too. So Eric, can we just table this for the next meeting, give the commissioners a little extra time to review these minutes?
You can.
All right, so I'm going to table these minutes. Since we have an ongoing discussion on that application, I want to give the commissioner some time to review these. So we'll table that for next time. Moving on to new business, application 2021-27, the construction activities in a regulated area at 85 Reservoir Road. Applicant Anna Reynolds, Building Committee, owner, Town of Newington, contact Stephen Woods. Hinckley, do you have a presentation for the commission?
I believe that they have some people in the room that are ready to speak.
Yes, hi. My name is Brennan White. I'm landscape architect with Castle Blues Architects. And here with me tonight is
Address, what's your address from you? Just full company address for the record.
my address is 1040 Paper Street in Suffield, Connecticut.
Thank you.
416 Slater Road, New Britain is Castle Blues address.
If quickly, Mr. White, just so you know, you can share your screen if you have things as well.
I will. I'm going to share my screen. We've also got a few people here tonight. At least they were invited. Jennifer Mangiali, who may speak. She's a project architect. Robert Newton is the civil engineer on the project. And I think Marnia Liska is here, the OPM on the project, and possibly Tom DeMoro from Newfield Construction. And I don't know if Steve Woods is on. He probably is. But we do have some things to share with you tonight. We had submitted we had submitted a package. You should have it fairly, it was very complete, and there was a very detailed write-up on the project. Should give you good description, as well as a plan set, very extensive plan set that was included in that. So you should have all the documentation. I'm going to pull up some of the images, some of the plans, and share them with you. 1 second here. You happen to see my screen?
You see it?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, the existing site, obviously this is this project is for additions and renovations for Anna Reynolds Elementary School, 85 Reservoir Road. I'm sure you're all familiar with the site. So I'll kind of walk through, just point a few things out on the existing site. This is the existing building right here, Reservoir Road. It's actually flipped around. North is pointing down on the sheet. So Reservoir Road here, the access drive in. It's really a one-way through the site. And Fenn Road is over here where vehicles exit. On each side of the site, there are wetlands, a little over 4 acres, distributed, throughout each area. There's some water courses, including a stream on the east side, and kind of ponded areas on the west side. So this is the existing parking, obviously, and circulation throughout. Playing fields in this location, the southeast, and playground areas around the school. So paved around the school. So our proposed project really involves it's a renovate to new project, meaning the facility will be completely renovated to new. The existing building will be renovated, and it will also have a small addition for an elevator located in this corner. So I'll go to the site plan here. So this little orange dot is actually the addition for the elevator. The rest of the school will be renovated, so there will also be site improvements associated with the project, none of which will impact the wetlands. Our mapping has compiled GIS wetlands mapping, as well as previous project mapping. There's a slight discrepancy between the field mapping that was to the west. This was actually field located wetland. I think in 2008, there was a major drainage rework that drains water from the west side to the east side through a 48-inch RCP. The water flows actually down and underneath Fen Road here. There's also a 36-inch line, which kind of spills out in this location and drains down as well. But no, this project will be not as extensive as that work. It's very contained to essentially the existing developed areas. Small parking expansion. Really, the intention of this is to improve the site circulation throughout, really upgrade the facility. So having our parent drop-off come in, kind of loop around here and exit back out to Reservoir Road and separate that from the bus traffic, which will come in here and loop in and around. So we're doing some improvements to the bus to enable that bus circulation to happen. A little bit of widening here to allow that radius, the turning radius of the bus, as well as vehicles be able to come down and loop through the lot. We're picking up a few additional parking spaces, which is beneficial to the main entrance, which is located right here. But as I said, there's really no impact. Everything is essentially in already previously developed areas. There is some grading associated with its radius. Any work that's done here in disturbance will be seeded. I think it's around 3,400 square feet of conservation seed mix that will occur along this edge, sloped edge right here. The mapping of the wetlands, actually based on the town GIS, takes it in, it actually overlaps an existing, this is an existing sidewalk. So the mapping, the actual wetlands are probably further, they're further in. So even though that line comes out, that is an existing walk that we're essentially reconstructing to blend into an existing asphalt walk in this location. So very minimal work here, essentially, a redo of that sidewalk, just repaving it, asphalt. And then this is a concrete sidewalk, which will allow students to cross through to the school without having to cross vehicular traffic. So there'll be a gate right here. This is obviously the wetland area, this red line right here, and this is the upland review, 100-foot review area. So very minimal work. Essentially, this whole area, with the exception of a small corner here in the northeast side, is you can see that it's currently already paved. We're just picking up kind of to improve the circulation right in through here, is to kind of pave a small part in this location. There are some reductions in site pavement. You can see here we're cutting out quite a bit of asphalt. So, it's kind of a balance through the site to make up for that. So as I mentioned, there's no impact to the existing wetlands. There's no work in the wetlands. It is work in the upland review area. We natural diversity database, in reviewing the documents that the state has, indicated that there is threatened species. So we looked into it. There was correspondence with Connecticut DEP. We also included that in the package in our submission to you. And then in response, we received a response from them indicating that the eastern box turtle had been found in this general location, not on this site, but in this general location. So we are aware of that. The construction manager is aware of that, Newfield Construction. And essentially they said, through construction, you just have to, keep an eye on it and watch out for these turtles. So there will be silt fence around the site. Any, the perimeter of certainly any disturbed areas would have silt fence, construction fence as well. So that will prevent them from migrating into the site. But they will certainly make it known to any of the contractors and understand how to deal with that and relocate if necessary. So we are aware of that. And in terms of the construction, the thought is the schedule is to start in spring of 2022, and it will continue. This work will continue through fall of actually will end the fall of 2024. So basically 2 years of construction. Probably most of the site work, because it is an occupied facility, will occur in the summer months. So most of the disturbance, and obviously through the summer months, maybe it's a little bit less common now, but it would be a drier situation. And as I said, there's erosion sedimentation control, which will be maintained throughout the site, throughout the duration of construction until everything is completely established. And there's no concern for erosion. In terms of the construction, the staging area is actually they'll be utilizing the southeast corner of the site on an existing playing field area, which will be completely restored after. That would be in this location. And we had also included some mapping to kind of indicate what the staging area might look like and the access up to the school throughout the duration of the construction. Really, the activities, as I mentioned before, for the most part, the existing paved areas are going to remain existing paved areas. There's going to be some improvements to the base material. There is some general filling to increase the base material throughout, and do some regrading to blend in into areas. So, as I mentioned, that will primarily occur in the drier months of the year and throughout the summer when the school is not occupied. So in general, let's see, we've got, they've kind of broken it down in terms of time frame for each of those. So this might be taken over at a certain point in time, and then this is taken over. So it's not all completely opened up at once. So it will maintain good control over the site. And certainly if Tom is on, he might want to speak to the, the dates of these activities.
So, Mr.
Okay,
Weiss,
Brendan,
may I
this
interject
is
quickly?
I'm sorry.
Tom.
All right, this is Tom DeMauro, Newfield. So the yellow area at the top of your screen, that's the staging area. That'll be constructed in the spring of 22. And then there's really two major phases of site construction. The reddish area at the bottom of the screen, that's the first summer of 22. And then the light brown area adjacent to that occurs in the summer of 23.
Thanks, Tom. In terms of the drainage on site, I spoke a little bit about the grading. The drainage will be improved. Currently, there's no water quality attenuation on the site. If I go to back to the site plan here. Sorry for bouncing all over the place here. This is our grading plan, which was included in the set. And then just to speak a little bit about drainage, like I said, we are improving the drainage and the water quality leaving the site. We've got 2 water quality devices on site, which will remove the total suspended solids. We've also got an underground detention system here. So generally, this portion of the site, really this access drive will drain back down to Reservoir Road. We are connecting to some of the existing drainage pipes within the kind of the core of the site here. Like I mentioned, the 48-inch line, which runs through here and really connects, one wetland to the other. There will be no disturbance to that line. And some of this drainage will be tied in to that, as well as conveyed over to an existing underground detention system. The soils are not good for infiltration, so it's really a matter of detaining the water on site and kind of metering it out, reduce the peak flow. The water will drain down the drive and utilizing some of the existing piping and go to water quality, another water quality device right here before it is discharged. Maybe Rob, if you're here, if you want to add to that.
Sure. Like Brennan said, we're going to try to utilize as much of the on-site drainage systems as we can. Of course, we do have to increase, add more drainage to it to pick up some of the newer paved areas. We do have a small retention system or detention system to help meter out any increase in stormwater flows, as Brennan pointed out. And as he mentioned, before the water discharges to the system in Fen Road or into Reservoir Road, the water will pass through a water quality unit to help trap any sediments, any debris, oils that may be leaving the site. That's a added feature to the drainage system that doesn't currently exist. But really, we're just improving the drainage system that's out there, reworking it a bit. We do have a little bit additional imperviousness from the pavement, and that's the reason for the detention system to help meet or reduce peak flows off of the site.
Mr. Newton, can you hear me?
Yes.
So, but the bottom line is this drainage is going to go to MDC. There's no delta increase of drainage going into that wetland on the left side of your map here.
There is no increase in drainage going into that wetland.
Okay, thank you.
So in terms of site lighting, will be improved. They'll all be LED fixtures with full cutoffs focused on the site. So certainly no impact to the wetlands or adjacent areas. As I mentioned, there's really no impact to the wetlands. We are doing some work in the upland review areas, but they are areas that have seen previous work and disturbance. As I mentioned, this certainly won't be probably to the extent of disturbance during the 2008 drainage line work that went through here. In terms of
Mr. White, there's no connectivity between these 2 wetlands on the left and on the right. There's no connectivity between those 2 wetlands. Does that flow underneath that parking area?
It flows underneath the parking lot, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And Where's that water coming from, right to left? And it goes into Piper Brook to the left, I assume?
Yes, yeah, eventually it makes its way down underneath Fenn Road and then across down to Piper Brook, further to the east. Take you back to this. So there's kind of a water course that runs through here. As I mentioned, there's also a 36-inch pipe. There's an easement. I think it's right in somewhere in here, an easement that takes it and dumps it out right there. And then this area is kind of a riprap with a head wall, and it takes it underneath that parking lot and across. So essentially, there's no impact to that drainage line.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask a question of the applicant?
Please, Commissioner Bashant.
Sure.
So the 0.45 acres of disturbance, is that the aggregate? In other words, we're only adding another 0.08 to the 0.37 that we have already? Or is it on top of the 0.37?
I believe
Yes,
it's, from looking at the application myself, it looks like what you said first, Commissioner Bashan, that they're just
That's
adding
the
that.
aggregate.
Correct.
It's,
I believe so. The applicant can verify.
yes, there's a chart on the document. We've broken it down to, pre-construction pavement area and post, and the pre and post within that upland review area would be, I think it's increased by
0.08.
0.06. There's a 0.08 actually is actually going to be the conservation seed mix, as I mentioned, along this area. We're actually going to add this in as a conservation seed mix area as well. So general wildflower area.
So just to be
Yes.
clear, the disturbance is a permanent improvement for the
Yes,
most part. Okay.
correct. It is. It is.
All right, thank you.
Any other question? Is your presentation concluded, Mr. White?
Yes, I think I've covered everything.
Are there any questions
There's-
from commissioners, please, at this time?
Chairman Sedell, Commissioner Pasquich here.
Go ahead.
You actually satisfied questions that I had already, so thank you very much. I had no further questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners at this time wish to speak? Ask any questions of the applicant?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Castasanto, go ahead.
thank you. Just a quick question for clarification. The eastern box turtles that Deep says are in this, it's in the eastern or western wetland that they're found?
Not necessarily on the site, based on the NDDB and the Natural Diversity Database from the state, it indicated that there are species, didn't indicate what species, but this, I'm pulling it up right now, if you can see my screen.
Yeah, that should be helpful.
Yeah, so just generally within these bubbles, they say it could be somewhere within this area. So I suppose that, it's safe to assume that they could be on site within either the wetlands, either east or west, but certainly nothing that they said, you can't construct. It's something that has to be monitored throughout construction. And Tom has certainly dealt with this before. And as I said, the erosion and sedimentation control, it's even indicated in their letter, in Deep's letter, that silt fence is a deterrent that will actually prevent them from migrating onto the site, as well as construction fence. So that will certainly help, but just the general observation throughout construction and educating contractors, to be aware of that, certainly during certain times of the year. I think it's an advantage that most of the site work will be being done probably in the summer months, outside of any kind of migratory activities. So hopefully that answered your question. So there's no specific location, but kind of generalized.
Thank you, Mr. White.
So, any other questions from commissioners? I do not see anyone with their hand up. So, so our main purpose this evening, if this application requires a public hearing, I think we have to vote on a motion whether or not this will or will not have a significant impact onto the wetlands. So, my personal feeling is to waive the public hearing. I think this is a pretty straightforward application. I think they're doing some minor redo, increasing an electric paved area. There's no delta change in the hydrology of the wetland, in my opinion. So my feeling is to forego a public hearing on this application. I welcome comments from the other commissioners.
Commissioner Pascowitch, Chairman Sedell.
Please proceed.
I concur with you after reviewing these documents and listening to the presentation. It only seems like a slight increase in the parking area near the wetland that will not be, discharged into the wetland, and maybe some changes up above that area in grading or curbing. So it does not seem like a significant impact to the wetland. And the abutters south of that do not look like they would be impacted to me, which would determine whether or not we may need a public hearing. So I would also waive the need for a public hearing.
Thank you, Commissioner Pascowitch. Any other commissioners wish to comment? Commissioner Casasanta.
I agree with you and Commissioner Pascowitch. I don't think there's any need for a public hearing on this application, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Casasanta.
Chairman,
Who's speaking?
John Bashan.
Commissioner Bashan, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree that the impact is minimal, but because of the scope of the project, I wouldn't be against a public hearing anyway, just to give the public a chance to chime in. I don't think it would be something like we've seen with the other the recent application where there's going to be a lot of opposition to it, but I think that maybe the public would be interested, unless this is, we wouldn't want to delay the school project, of course, but I see no downside to a public hearing. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Thank you, Commissioner Bashan. Commissioner Wagner.
I agree with you, Commissioner Sedell, that we don't need a public hearing. It's minimum, and I don't want to delay the project.
Thank you, Commissioner Wagner. Commissioner Conway?
I feel comfortable with moving forward and agree that with the minimal impact, I don't see a need for a public hearing.
Thank you, Commissioner Conway. Commissioner Ancona, wish to
Yeah, sure.
speak?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with no public hearing.
All right, so I think there is a consensus there to waive the public hearing. Then let's move. I need a motion for 2021-2785 Reservoir Road for construction activities within the upland review area. Owner, Town of Newington, applicant N and Reynolds Building Committee, contact Stephen Woods. May I have a motion to waive the public hearing? Mr. Vice Chairman, since we do not have an acting secretary, can you please submit the motion as acting secretary?
Yes. So the motion, the commission believes this activity will have no significant impact on the regulated area and not be in the best interests of the public and then application will not require a public hearing.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second, Commissioner Paskowitz.
Seconded by Commissioner Paskowitch. Ms. Gibbons, please call the roll.
Sorry, Commissioner Ancona,
Yes.
Commissioner Bashand,
Yes.
Commissioner Casasanta,
Yes.
Commissioner Conway,
Yes.
Commissioner Paskowitch,
Yes.
Chairman Sedil,
Yes.
Commissioner Wagner.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, that's the unanimous motion passes. Thank you, Mr. White, and your team for your presentation this evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a good evening.
You too. Okay, moving on to old business. Application number 2021-23 for construction activities in the regulated area at 35, 67, and 69 Culver Street and 258 Deming Street. The applicant is AR Building Company Incorporated. Owner is 3D3 RD3 LLC. Contact is the Bongiovanni Group Incorporated.
Mr. Chairman, before we begin, if I may, just a kind of a reminder, when preparing to deliberate and take action on this application, please refer to section 10.2 of the regulations to consider those items. And that section was referenced in my original memo, staff memo for this project, and it's up on the screen for your use and review as needed. That's all.
Okay. Is the applicant present, or are we going to deliberate among ourselves?
It's really, the public hearing is closed, so there really shouldn't be any input from anybody at this point. It's your deliberations and your action this evening.
Mm-hmm.
And if I may jump in, Mr. Chair, for the record, the town attorney is present in the room, so if you have any procedural questions, you are welcome to ask.
Okay,
I could start, Mr. Chairman.
please go ahead, Commissioner Bashand.
So first question is, when are we required to render a decision?
You
Well-
have 35 days after the public hearing, so that's tonight's meeting.
I thought it was 65, not 35, Mr. Hinckley.
It's 35. You can ask for an extension.
So we have no further, we can't push it off to another, to the next meeting, in other words.
Not unless you get an extension from the applicant.
Okay. And then this
And
discussion.
by the way, if I may interrupt, the applicant does not wish to have an extension, correct?
I have not formally asked him, so I don't know they gave a small extension for TPZ.
Okay, please continue, Mr. Bashand.
Well, I did watch the TPZ meeting, and there seems to be a little confusion about the whole situation. I know that even they were instructed, they were only considering a zone change, but there's this legal quandary, or this technical quandary. Maybe we could have that explained to us as they had explained to them, since the town attorney is here, or since Renata is also here too. I know that it's not part of our decision, but it's not part of the zone change decision either, but it was explained to the commissioners in the TPZ meeting. So I don't know if there's a consensus on that, if someone would like to hear about that.
Commissioner Paskowitz here, Chairman Sedell, John Bouchon.
Go ahead.
I'm not quite clear on what you're alluding to. Could you expand in more terms that I can understand of what you're looking for?
Okay, if the chairman doesn't mind, I'll get
Please
into it.
proceed, Commissioner Bashand.
Well, we heard from some of the public that in essence, this is a hypothetical application because it can't go through TPZ as it is now. I could be completely wrong, so I hope Renata will correct me if I am wrong, but apparently other things have to occur, so we're kind of considering a hypothetical.
Mr. Chairman, please. Commissioner
Go ahead,
Bassan,
Mr. Attorney Ancona.
this is a rabbit hole we have no business going down into, please. We need to be focused on the application in front of you, the record before you, and that's it. This extraneous stuff does not belong in this hearing. Please.
Okay. Coming from the town attorney, I will withdraw that.
I mean,
that
your
line of
charge,
questioning.
commissioners, as you know, is the impact to the wetlands. It's not a zone change. It's not a future TPZ application. That's what you look at. And going forward, if you approve, deny, or whatever, and something gets approved at the TPZ level that changes what you approved, they will have to seek a modification to their wetland permit if it changes anything that you've approved this evening on the wetland end. So I just offer that.
Okay. Thank you.
Was there anything else, Commissioner Bashan?
No, not at this time.
I want to ask the commission, I want to get this out in the open. There was a mention earlier about this search report. Attorney Ancona, can you shed some light on that? Is that within the purview of the commission to request a report or something similar to that effect?
Mr. Chairman, it is not. You must look at the record before you and move forward, one way or another.
It's unfortunate.
Chairman Sedil, I'd like to know why that wouldn't be something that we, within our purview, that we couldn't do. Being the conservation committee, the wetlands, having that in our purview and having to get I'd like to get as much information as I can on it. And I came into this meeting tonight with that in mind, thinking of requesting that possibly, bringing that before the rest of the commissioners, just to get more information. So I don't understand why that wouldn't apply here.
Well, I guess the simplest answer, and Renata, you can jump in here, Eric, please. The simplest answer is at this point, we are running up against a deadline, and I'm not sure which way or how we can go about concluding this matter if we pursue that avenue.
I think Renata has reached out to the CRT.
I did, and let me just quickly report on that. So first of all, no new information should be introduced into a record after the close of the public hearing. So let's say we approached CRT and we were able to get that report. You as a commission would not be able to consider information in that report in making a wetlands decision on this matter. So that's number one. Number two, I did reach out to them, and when they did Cedar Mountain report, and this was up until I understand some recent time ago, the CRT, which is an extension of Yukon, had at their disposal help from DEEP. So through that DEEP assistance, what they actually got was some professional immunity for the volunteers that would normally do these reports. At this time, this group considers environmental review reports for either town projects, town-owned land, or for the land trusts. When it comes to development application, because DEEP withdrew the help that they used to give them, the team of volunteers that conducts these reports no longer has professional immunity in court, and the group, then the organization, is very sensitive to entering into any kind of report reviews when there is a development project. And the reason for that is they have a small group of volunteers. They do not want them in court having to testify, not having the level of professional immunity that developers, specialists perhaps have. With that in mind, if we were to file a formal application, what would happen is the group would reach out to DEEP to see if they can get some assistance. It is unlikely because DEEP is not funding this any longer. If in some kind of very hopeful universe, they were able to get DEEP's assistance, they wouldn't be able to get this project before spring. And what that would mean is we would run out of all of the deadline time. Now, all that being said, going back to the fact that you may not consider information that's received before you, that's received after a public hearing, because the applicant doesn't have opportunity to rebut. If you were to make a decision based on that report, the CRT team would be perhaps in court over a decision that was made based on that, and that is why that's really not a practical or viable option. Now, what we can do actually with this group that does environmental reviews is, if we sit down and design a map and itemize parcels that we would like or have some concerns for preservation, even if those parcels are privately owned, but are not currently under pending development application. And if we get authorization from the property owner, they would do that. So for future planning, they can help us. For the current stuff, I don't think that that's really an option.
Okay, I'm sorry to hear that. So if I voice my concerns right now, this is where I'm at and what my concerns are relative to the application. And looking at, I will go through 10.2, but here's where I'm at. I am concerned about the southerly portion of the project where buildings 3, 4, and 5 are. That very narrow area. It's about 75 yards if I judge from the map from the upland review area. That is a very narrow area. You have very large embankments on both sides, both where that other water course is and where the pond number 2 is, where the vernal pool is. That is a very steep grade, okay? And if they want to go in there and clear that area, I mean, how stable is that ridge area going to be when they go in there with 10-ton cement trucks and, go back and forth? At 75 yards is not very wide. So I am concerned once you take out all of the vegetation and the trees and whatnot, then maybe they have to do some blasting to level spread that area to get to those buildings. What is the impact to the wetland? Are we going to have a bit of a landslide, mudslide, what have you, when they come through there with that heavy machinery? Where is the gravel pile going to be? Where's the dirt pile? That's not really on that plan. They have a little pile out front, but you're talking about a major excavation here. So I have concern within that 75-foot area, all that construction. How stable is that ridge line going to be when you have such a cliff basically on either side of those buildings, okay? And with that regard, the parking area goes right up to the edge. And there's nothing in this report that I see as far as what the curbing is. If a car jumps, people drive, they jump the curve and go down into the upland review area. That is a very steep area. I don't see anything that addresses that steepness that could impact get a vehicle in the upland review area. If you look at the grading map, that is extremely steep. Apparently someone with some digging out in the past, I don't know. But that concerns me, what type of barrier is around those three buildings, especially in the narrow area around that, the vernal pool pond, pond number 2. So that is a concern to me. Second is the drainage into that, on the southerly side, the drainage from those buildings, they're going to dump that into that area on the southerly portion. I mean, what's the velocity of that flow going to be? That's going to cause erosion, no matter how if they slow it down. They're going to have water flow into that. That's going to cause erosion, and there are trees in that area. Is that going to uproot the root balls of those trees? That is a concern to me. So that's the plantings in that same area, a very, very steep slope. What are the chances of those plantings taking hold when you're right up against the ridge line? You're going to have some tipping over with the wind, you know, they're right on the edge there. And the detention pond C2, how deep are you going to dig into the upland review area to put detention pond C2? Again, in a very unstable soil, what's going to happen there? So I have questions about the erosion control. Are they going to have to remove some of the underbrush, particularly on the corner there by Deming Street there, in order to put the erosion control in place? They're going to have to take out a lot of surroundings around that wetland there, watercourse number 1. That is concern. Those are the highlights that I still have concerns with. And I don't know how other people feel, where else we're going to go, but I don't see a maintenance plan. There's significant wetland assets on this property, 3 of them, right? Does the applicant have experience? I know he has a lot of properties, but are there properties where he has wetlands adjacent to, and what is his best practice? And that's something that is open in my mind, as far as, given the sloping, especially with pond number 2 and wetland course number 2, the southerly one along Costello Road and that whole area, how is that going to be maintained? That is an active water course there. And these are some of the questions that I have. I open it up to the commissioners, so what your feelings are. But
Commissioner Pasquich, Chairman Siddall.
go ahead.
You've done a very thorough evaluation. I've been trying to spend time on this myself and being very conscious on looking at all the elements around the wetland that will be disturbed from their current status of upper parts of the wetland and the forest canopy that's around the wetlands. It's all part of the complete ecosystem with the wildlife and the aquatic life on this property. It's a very significant area of wetland. And I heard some terms during the sessions with the applicant regarding a lot of fallow farmland. So I did some research and I find that there's not that much fallow farmland. In fact, there's very little former farmland. It only is about 5 to 6 acres encompassing the 25, which is a small amount, which typically would have only been up in the northwest corner, just south of the water course there, because if you look at the topos on the mapping, it's fairly flatter there, which is only about 5 or 6 acres, and all around that is very steep. And as you move further southerly, it becomes very, very steep. Farmers in any era would not be farming that for at all. It wouldn't even be forestry in there because forestry doesn't occur on slope land. So I feel that this wetland is very significant, and I can't find another, more information from the applicant that I asked about the excavation process. And I'd like to know, how long is that going to take? Is that going to take a year, 2 years? How many months? What's the schedule for the excavation? If it's significant as I can see it could be, because there's going to be quite a bit of cut and fill to make the land flat in order to put on a parking lot and buildings. And from past review of construction site, I think there could be some large excavation going on here that's going to disturb the wetlands and the life around it.
Commissioner Casasanto, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My concerns are similar to Commissioner Paskowicz's. The applicant was dealing with each of the wetlands on this property as if each was in a vacuum. And I think the whole site is interconnected. And I think by fragmenting the site, the fragmentation will do irreparable harm to all three wetlands. You know, that's what I'm wrestling with right now. Because, you know, they've taken mitigating, you know, the plans take mitigating actions not to harm the individual wetlands, but overall, I assure you those three wetlands are interconnected. The frogs or the toads that are breeding in that western middle vernal pool are migrating north to the north wetland, migrating south to the southerly watercourse. I see them all interconnected, and what the whole development does is fragment that ecosystem. That's my main concern. Up to last month and still is.
Thank you, Commissioner Casasanta. Any other commissioner wishes to speak at this time? Commissioner Bashant.
Mr. Chairman, I have a slightly different take on it. When I first saw the application, I thought it was a quite ambitious yield of housing units, but I thought that Mr. Bongiovanni did an excellent job in condensing it into this small area and pretty much staying out of the wetlands completely, but also almost completely staying out of the upland review areas. So as far as the property getting fragmented now, I think it does fragment the whole ecosystem, but I'm not so concerned for the wetlands. So I still would like more time to think about it because it's such a large scale because of the scope of the project. So I don't know, who do we ask for permission if there was any consensus that we wanted to even hold off, and who would we ask for? And then these other questions that we're asking now, are these questions for Mr. Bongiovanni or for the applicant, or there's no more back and forth at this time? I'm not sure, what the process is at the moment. Eric, if you could answer that
Yeah,
one.
the public hearing is closed. You're at the deliberation stage of the application.
So
So
even with-
whatever action you guys take is the action you take.
I'm really not raising questions, but there was questions raised by the first two speakers, so I just didn't know if those would get answered. So my one question is, I think it's a valid question, is if we did want to ask for an extension, who do we ask at this stage? Is there any representative of the applicant here?
Go ahead, Renata.
Mr. Bongiovanni is in the room.
For the record,
So-
Alan Bongiovanni, 170 Payne Road, Newington, Connecticut. The applicant has no desire to grant an extension to the commission.
So if I may continue then,
Go ahead.
that's where I am. When I, first saw this application, I thought Mr. Bongiovanni did a good job with what he did, condensing it the way he did, and kind of, saving as much of the open space as possible. That said, I'm talking about the application that's before us with the driveway coming out on Culver Street. So I might have a different opinion if something changes in that regard, but that's how I feel right now. I'm okay with it.
Okay, Commissioner Conway.
Yes, I still have many concerns myself for many of the reasons that have already been mentioned tonight. This is a large ecosystem, and I don't feel comfortable that with the fragmentation of the 3 different water courses or water areas that I don't feel comfortable that they wouldn't be disturbed or impacted in a negative way. So, I still have a lot of concerns and don't quite feel comfortable with it as a whole. I was hoping to get, I guess, I'm learning a lot. It would have been nice if we could have requested the CRT. That would have given me a lot more confidence in making a decision on this. And that's what I was hoping to do. So right now I'm not feeling comfortable with it. Still have a lot of concerns.
Thank you, Commissioner Conway. Commissioner Wagner, are you on the line? Go ahead.
Yes, I'm on the line. I think we're debating if all these are connected. Do we have any proof that they are connected? That's the questions I think are being brought up. But we're affecting a very small area of the upland review. And I think with what is presented so far, I don't have an issue with it. Just like Commissioner Bishant said, if they do change the road from Culver to the Berlin Turnpike, they have to come back to the commission and they're gonna have to do another application for it. And I think by the regs, I think they're gonna have to go off of 515, the driveway. So I think at that point, if we wanted to, we can get maybe another expert in there to check if they are connected. But right now, I don't see them being connected with any proof,
Any other comments, Commissioner Wagner?
No.
Okay, let's go to Commissioner Ancona.
Hi, Commissioner Ancona here. I don't see how fragmentation is under our purview with this. I think the applicant has done what we've asked, and I think we have an obligation to vote yes on this.
Okay. So I think we've heard from everyone, I believe, right? We've heard it from all commissioners here. So let's review 10.2 right here. So it says, carrying out the purposes and policies of section 22A and 36 to 22A 45, inclusive of the Connecticut General Statutes, including matters relating to regulating, licensing, and enforcing of the provisions thereof, the agency shall take into consideration all relevant facts and circumstances, including but are not limited to the environmental impact of the proposed regulated activity on wetlands and watercourses. I think overall, this is not a plus. This is a minus in my mind here as far as the overall health of the wetland. And I still have questions regarding that. Item B, the applicant's purpose for and any feasible and prudent alternatives to the proposed regulated activity, which alternatives would cause less or no environmental impact to wetlands or watercourses. Such alternatives may include low impact development techniques. What we have in front of us right now is the one alternative, right? I cannot design RD3's buildings here. I don't have a feasible and prudent alternative in front of me or can tell him of one. I don't know if any other commissioners have any ideas. I do not have one right now. I'm only looking at the application that's before us. Item C, the relationship between the short-term and long-term impacts of the proposed regulated activity on wetlands, watercourses, and the maintenance and enforcement of long-term productivity of such wetlands and watercourses. Me personally, that's an open item. That has not been addressed. I don't care how other commissioners feel, but we have significant assets on the property. I feel that's an open item. I asked for it. I never got that. Item D, irreversible or irreversible loss of wetland or watercourse resources, which would be caused by the proposed regulated activity, including the extent to which such activity would foreclose a future ability to protect, enhance, or restore such resources and the mitigation measures, including low-impact development techniques, which may be considered as a condition of issuing a permit for such activity, including but not limited to measures to 1, prevent or minimize pollution or other environmental damage, 2, maintain or enhance existing environmental quality, or 3, in the following order of priority, restore, enhance, and create productive wetland or watercourse resources. I think that area, as far as maintaining, I don't see any low impact development. Maybe with regards to the drainage, yes. But as far as the placement of the buildings, I do not see that as low impact. Item 3E, the character and degree of injury to or interference with safety, health, or the reasonable use of the property, which is caused or threatened by the proposed regulated activity. I've stated my issue about that with those 3 buildings and the immense steepness on either side of buildings 3, 4, and 5. I think that's going to be a safety issue in my mind. Can't speak for the other commissioners. Item F, impacts of the proposed regulated activity on wetlands and watercourses outside the area for which the activity is proposed and future activities associated with or reasonably related to the proposed regulated activity, which are made inevitable by the proposed regulated activity and which may have an impact on wetlands or watercourses. So that basically says, we can't do anything outside our purview right there that would impact something that's outside of the wetland. That's my interpretation of that. I don't think that really applies here in item F, unless you want to talk, outside the wetlands. I don't think that's going to affect something outside. I think item F is fine in my mind as far as this application. So, does anybody have any further comment?
Commissioner Pasquich here, Chairman Sedell.
Go ahead.
Speaking to the fragmentation, my knowledge and background about fragmentation of wetlands and forested canopy and trails in which that habitats are established by wildlife and aquatic species are established long-term. Their next generation uses those same paths, those same burrows, those same places across the wetlands on any property, anywhere. And when you break that connection and you put a building in there and parking lots and more buildings along those paths, you are completely disrupting the connectivity of their habitats and their survival. So yes, it would be fragmented. That's my knowledge of fragmentation of wetlands. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Bashant?
Yeah, I'm still in the same spot. I think we're all, I think I speak for all of us when I say we're all, I don't want to say environmentalists, but in a way we all appreciate nature and everything. There has to be a balance. And so far, it's not an easy decision for me to say that I think that I said I'm okay with it. It's not an easy decision to say that, but I think as as a whole or in the balance, that's where I'm still at. I think the wetlands could be impacted somewhat, but not enough that changes my mind that I think that they're in some dire threat to them. That's it.
All right. Anyone else? So,
What, Commissioner Ancona?
go ahead, Commissioner Ancona.
I agree with Commissioner Bashan. I think this is one of these times where you have to reluctantly vote yes. Based on our review.
I care to disagree with you. Okay, I think, given a project this size, I disagree. All right. Anyone else?
Commissioner Pasquich here.
Go ahead.
I oppose to the word used reluctantly, meaning that you're thinking about yes or no, but you're doing it reluctantly. What does that mean, Mr. Ancona? Why are you reluctant?
Well, if you don't like the project, that should not change. That should not change whether it is under your purview or not, what we're dealing with, the wetlands. Your opinion of a project shouldn't change whether it's legal or not.
I'll take a stab at that question from
Commissioner Bashan?
Commissioner Pasquich. I'm kind of reluctant too, and that's what I was getting at, that maybe that's not the right term to use, but I would love to see everything stay natural. But again, I'm talking about a balance, a fair balance, and so again, I think it's on balance. There has to be some development, and I think that the applicant did a pretty good job on this spot, as
Thank
high
you.
of a yield as it is.
Okay, Mr. Kibitsis, Jason Kibitsis is on the line. He wishes to speak.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I'm coming to this late as I had another one. I know Alan was on the call and Emily was on the call, so I just hopped on. So I appreciate you guys letting me get on here. I just kind of wanted to touch base, regarding this application. I know that we've handed in everything. I know that we've talked about this in various meetings, kind of talked about how we've got 3 separate wetlands. We're not getting into the setbacks. I think there was just a comment made, just because you may not like something doesn't mean doesn't pass the test as being correct and legal or illegal, however you want to call it. I mean, for us, I think we've gone above and beyond what we needed to do here. We're adding species to it. There was a lot of invasives that are on the property that are leaving. We're not here to ask for any variances or any changes. It's not something we're asking for. We're only asking for the rule of law, which does exist, which are the requirements of the town. We have not asked for anything different. And I feel that with that in mind, that's really how the vote should be done. We're not asking for special treatment or anything else other than what has been asked by the town and has been given as such. So, I'm happy to discuss that deeper than that. But in my opinion, and of course it's biased, I'm the developer, so of course I want to see it go. But we come into these plans with the idea of, how do we make this work for everybody involved? How do we make sure that we do a plan and we're not asking for more than we deserve? And that's really what we're doing here. I think all of the analysis that's been done have shown what's on there, which is we've got separate wetlands. All our conversations have gone around a lot of other things, such as the bees and all that kind of stuff. Originally, we've had those conversations, and I just feel that based upon that, and I think how forthright we have been, that this does pass the muster. It's not really a question of like or not; it's a question of legal or not, and this does meet all the criteria that was set out in the town. So I just wanted to make sure that I'm on record stating that as the applicant.
So, am I allowed to ask Mr. Kibitsis a question?
You can ask me as many questions as you
Mr.
want.
Chair. Mr. Chair, if I may interject, and we can defer this to the town attorney, but at this point, the public hearing is closed. What you just have heard from Mr. Kibitsis is essentially a recap of what was presented during the public hearing while it was open. So this portion of the conversation was okay. I would caution you against engaging in
All right, I'm ready to vote.
further
I'm ready to vote,
discussion.
Ms.
Yeah.
Bertardi. I'm ready to vote.
If I may add one more thing before we go that far,
Go ahead.
I would ask the applicant again, only for my own, this is just my opinion, if to reconsider granting us an extension. I know Mr. Bongiovanni said he represents the applicant, but now that the applicant is here at present,
I'm here. Yeah.
I'm not asking, I don't want to ask this myself. I would like to have the commissioner,
Yeah, it should
chairman.
come through the chairman.
Yeah,
I'm certainly
I would ask
open.
the chairman if that was, if there was a consensus to ask for an extension. That's where I would be.
Commissioner Wagner, can I ask a question? What would
Go
the
ahead.
extension do? Would it give it more time to review it? Like
Would just keep-
what's the outcome of the extension?
For my reasoning for asking it, to just give him more time to think about it, to consider it.
You know, I
And
do
so-
have a few, to answer your question, I do have a few extra questions that are unanswered in my mind. That's all. That way I would use that time, create a list of questions that I would have to give to Mr. Bongiovanni and work with the applicant. Now, I don't know everything. I'm not, I'm an environmental scientist. I'm not a construction guy. But there are a few questions that I would have. I would want to work through those. I wouldn't ask for a cert report, be honest with you. I think there are a few items I would want some comfort items just to give me some reassurances that I didn't think about. I'm busy running the meeting, a lot of information here. That's where I'm at. And
Okay.
if that was the case, I regret closing the hearing. I will go on record, regret closing the hearing, okay? Because I do have some questions, thinking about this and looking at the plans. And that's where I'm at.
I guess it is I don't know if the attorney has an answer for that. Look, I'm here to figure out how we make this work. I don't know what questions you may have. I know that we've had, we've already gone through this. I don't think the legality is in question. And just so I can ask, you're saying what other questions you may have. And as the applicant talking to the commission, what would you have? What are other questions you may have? What are other things that are of importance? And I'm not saying this from a place of debate, but rather a place of understanding. So what are things that are still unanswered in your opinion?
Okay, if I may.
Yeah.
If I may, okay?
Yeah.
Went man to man, talking to you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So
Yeah.
my question to you is, you own a lot of properties, okay? And I
Yep.
assume some of them have a wetland in the neighborhood or adjacent to wetlands, I assume, right?
Yeah.
What are your best practices in maintaining, since this property has significant wetland assets? What are your best practices? I'd like to have an insight into that. I know I'm not allowed to do this, not allowed to do that, getting a little annoyed by that. But I want to know what can be put in, what are your best practices?
Our best practices are what is natural stays natural. We don't let people wander through things. We don't, if it's something that people want to keep natural and let it stay in the natural state, we don't do that. For us, the wetlands are the wetlands. The wetlands are a protective buffer between us. The area sits there as protective buffer between us and the water courses. It's not a place where I know there was conversations of, oh, what if paper flies in? What if all that? We clean up our properties. We would do that. We would do cleanups to make sure it stays in proper condition, because it's not like, since it's a wetland and it was part of some sort of legal requirement, we're just going to look back on it. That's our property and we like to maintain it. So something that is natural growth, we like to keep it as natural growth. We're not going to cut it down and put in, pesticide and stuff in the buffer or within the wetlands. That's not what we do. For us, the wetland is part of our maintenance and is kept as such. I hope that answers the question. If you need a deeper answer, I'm happy to answer that. But what we do in those parts is we kind of keep them as natural as possible, or just keep them natural.
And if I may interject, Commissioner and Jason, they are going to be donating, 15 acres or so of conservation easements, which is over all of those wetland areas. So, and the wording of your conservation easements gives very strict language as to the do's and don'ts in there. You know, no depositing material, no structures, things like that. So that is part of their application. That is one of the conditions that I put on the motion.
Commissioner Casasanta has his hand raised.
Oh, yeah, and the conservation easement is great. I apologize if I offend anybody with this comment. The town's record on enforcing conservation easements is checkered at best. So that being said, I appreciate the fact that the offer is being made to give conservation easements, but, I'm not sure how much weight that's going to have in the overall impact on those wetlands. So, but the offer is very generous.
Okay. Going back to, can I ask you another concern that I have, Mr. Kibitsis? You there?
Yeah, I'm right here. Yep.
So the other concern that I had is relative to those three buildings that are in that corridor. I call them 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah.
And I am startled by the grading on either side of those properties. You only have about 75 yards in that whole corridor because you've got, buffer on both sides of that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So how stable is that area going to be? You're going to have big, cement trucks, what have you, going through. Once you clear that site, which is a lot of clearing, there's a lot of good trees, a lot of bad, down trees. How is all that construction equipment? You're building a 4-story building on that corridor. And then
yes.
How is that going to, I'm not talking about silt fence or hay bales here, but is there possibly, if there's a heavy rain or something, then you have a bit of a mini landslide going on either side? Because I don't know how firm that soil is. It's not wetland soil, but then if there's an accident of some sort, you can have a bit of an avalanche of material coming down on either side. I'm concerned about that. The heavy equipment that's required, that's going to have to get in that corridor, that could there be an accident that we could have material going into that upland review area as a result of something like that happening? Number one.
I mean, that hasn't happened in the past. I mean, these things are engineered and designed to make sure that doesn't occur. When we talk about that, you said 75 yards, 225 feet. I mean, the slopes are there in a way that we're not building walls, so you're built up to it. We're building them so there is a nice grade that goes to it that helps the water flow. Regarding the construction of that, we do use erosion sedimentation control beyond the bales that keep any excess water out. So, I mean, we use engineered techniques in order to protect those areas. Those areas are not something that when you construct, you somehow drive over, and then when you're done, whatever's left, we call it the buffer. I mean, those are protected wetland areas and something that we choose to protect and have to protect. Even if we didn't want to, we have to protect. So, at this point, I mean, I can understand that, but, this has been engineered in a way to protect that and to also grade into that as a way to not slide into the hillsides. That is how we design it and how we do it.
Okay, so when the construction is done, and there is one area in that, I think it's the middle building of that 3-building set.
Mm-hmm.
The slope of that is incredible. What type of barrier? Okay, everything is built up as you planned. What type of curbing? How high is that curbing going to be? That we have some coming home drunk one night, they go in and they're going to jump the curb. I didn't see that in the plan. That is a question that I have.
That's a question that you could ask on any project at any point at any time, and it has nothing to do with the wetland. It's really a question of what do you do if some sort of occasion that were to occur? I mean, I can't design a property for if somebody comes home drunk at night and what they're going to jump the curb and go into the woods. I mean, I think we
At
do
least
have
there's a
curbing.
deterrent, at least there's a deterrent from that from happening.
Would
Because
a
you're right up to
guardrail in
the
the back?
edge. I look at
Hold
the
on, hold on, let
map.
me ask you this.
You're right
Would-
up to the edge.
Would a
And that
guardrail in the
slope
back?
is
Hold
like
on,
this.
I understand. Would a guardrail make a difference?
I would ask Mr. Bongiovanni, or something as a deterrent, as a safety measure, protect priests as well as the upland review area.
I'm happy to put in a guardrail, and as long as we can keep the material open, I don't want to be relegated to a big metal one as I might want to do a wooden one that has the same amount of protection, but is more aesthetically pleasing. But I'm happy to do that, and that's something we can do. I don't have an issue with that.
Good.
Commissioner Wagner here.
Go ahead.
I think a wood one would be sufficient. We can't do the what ifs if someone's drunk, but if he's willing to put in a wood barrier, that's going to protect the vehicle from going all the way down. And for some reason, if he's driving 60 and goes through it, that's going to be insurance. There's going to be insurance going to have to cover all that cleanup, everything like that. So if he's making if he's going to put up a wooden barrier, I'd be fine with that.
I would too. Something there to prevent, something like that from happening. That for protecting the wetland and the upland review area.
Yeah, good. We're happy to do that. That's not an issue for us.
My other question that I have is relative to the erosion control, especially on by Deming, on the Deming side of the property. Are we gonna have to remove all those invasives to put that erosion control? I was looking on the map about that, and I was concerned is that how much is that the invasive is going to have to be removed in order to put erosion control in place?
I don't have that right in front of me as I just hopped on. I could say Alan may be able to answer that clearer than I can. I don't want to just throw out stuff and not be precise. Alan, are you able to give them an answer to that?
I am, Jason. So all of our work is either outside of the regulated area or just on the edge, which would be the back of building number 1, the northwest corner. We are not planning on going into that area to remove all the invasive species because we feel it'd be too much disturbance to the upland review area and eventually to the wetland. We are planning on removing invasives in all the open fields and everything where we are proposing to do our work. But we do not have to clear the upland review area to put our erosion and sediment control measures along the north side of the site.
My other question, this is my final question. On the opposite side there, on the drainage, you have like a little, let me turn to the sheet right there. The drainage on the back side of building number 5 and number 3. And you have like a riprap going down the slope there. Come on. You know what I'm talking about, Mr. Bongiovanni?
Yes, so we have 2 outlets. Behind building 5, we have detention basin C2, and it goes out to a riprap pad C41. And then behind building 3, we have detention C1 going out to C40. These detention basins were designed so that we store and detain all of the stormwater so that there is no increase in runoff from the existing condition today. So what that means is we're holding that water back and we're metering it out at a very slow pace. And this has been reviewed thoroughly with the town engineering staff to make sure that we don't create any velocity issues with our discharges leaving those detention basins. We have riprap energy dissipators at the end of those basins that will reduce any speed or velocity of that water so that there will be no erosion downstream of that. There's very, very little flow. The water is going to be held back and metered out very, very slowly. These basins, because of the length of time that it's going to be required to actually drain this, these basins would have been designed as open above ground basins, but because of the safety factor and water staying in there for such an extended period of time, they were designed to be underground structures.
Okay.
We have a very conservative design here. We're not even taking advantage of the fact that we have pervious soils, that a lot of that water will infiltrate into the ground naturally.
Thank you. Any other questions? That was my last question, my last concern. Any other commissioners for the?
Can I add one more thing? I just want to say thanks for letting me talk. I know I came on here late, so I hope I was able to answer your questions and we could get you to a solid footing and understand, what we're trying to do here. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I just might reiterate my one question that I had from the beginning, and that was on the issue of the extension to delay our vote for another month. And that would be through you or through a consensus of the, and with the permission of the applicant, of course.
Again, the question came up. My questions have been answered. Okay, my questions have been answered. I will ask Jason, I think what is asking you face to face. And I asked the other commissioners, I don't think an extension would benefit me. I think he's answered my questions. I'll throw the rest of the commissioners what their consensus is. Is that going to change minds?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Commissioner
ready to
Casasanto.
vote. I'm ready to vote tonight.
I'm ready to vote too. I understand, but
Okay.
Commissioner Wagner,
go ahead.
I think that they, with good faith, they're proven that through their design, given conservation of 15 acres back, they're doing everything they can do to satisfy us. I know it's not gonna be 100% satisfied because it's kind of emotional because they're putting in 200 and something units, but I think they did a good enough job to prove that, they're gonna do this project right. And I think the vote off of, are they disturbing the wetlands? What's the significance of it? And you have to take the what ifs out of it. That's just my opinion.
I agree. Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Commissioner Ancona, yeah, I agree. I think, the environment's being impacted, but our job is to look at the wetlands, and I agree with Commissioner Wagner.
All right.
I
Ms.
don't
Conway?
feel any need to, for a delay or an extension. I'm ready to vote tonight.
Okay. I think, haven't we heard from everyone? Commissioner Paskowitz, we haven't heard from you.
No, I'm gonna hold on till we vote. I'm not gonna speak anymore. Thank you.
All right. All right, I think we've come to that time. Unless any other comments, I'm going to move to the vote.
Renata, can you bring that up if it's ready? Okay. She's just making a correction.
You want to take a short recess, Mr. Hinckley?
We can do that if you like, sir.
You need to do some editing. We can
Yep,
take
just a
a
couple
body
things.
break for 10 minutes. It's 8:38, 8:40, and we come back 8:45. Is that sufficient time?
I think that'll work. Thank you.
Okay, we are standing recess to return at 8:45.
It's 8:45, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, do we have everyone back? Let me check real quick.
Everybody's still logged on.
All right, for the record, it's 8:45. Newington Conservation Commission is back in session. All right, Mr. Hinckley, is the application complete on application 2021-23 for construction
Yeah.
activities in a regulated area at 35, 67, and 69 Culver Street and 258 Deming Street, applicant AR Building Company Incorporated, owner RD3 LLC, contact the Bon Giovanni Group.
Yes, the application is complete. And just so you know, on the motion, I've added, I believe, 5 extra conditions at the end that some were recommended by their biologist, and the other ones about the conservation easement. So they're there as well for your consideration.
Right, Mr. Acting Secretary, may I have a motion on application 2021-3, read in standard conditions and the special conditions.
Yes, can you go back to the first slide?
Yep, 1 second.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
And that should be application 2021-23, not 2.
23. Okay.
Correct.
Motion to move to approve application 21 is it 23?
Correct.
It says 23 with the following standard conditions. Permits not transferable without prior written consent of the agency. Fail to comply with any conditions required by this permit. I think you went too far. This permit shall automatically revoke this permit and subjects to applicants. Here's the successors and the enforcement authority of the commission. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. All conditions listed on this permit must be printed on and approved plans with 6 months of the report issued by the commission. The annotated plans must be presented to commission for signature of chairman within 6 months of the report issued by the commission. Otherwise, this permit shall be voided or void. The applicant will incorporate the official notifications of action onto original tracing. When the actual field conditions differ from those asserted by the approved plans, the town engineer and consultations with the chairperson may direct the certain modifications and amendments may be accomplished to intend this permit. That's number 5. Number 6, regulate activities within the design wetlands, water courses, or buffered areas shall be performed on site until all soil and erosion control measures are installed in accordance with the plans and approved by the town engineer. Number 7 would be the agency is relieved in whole or in part of information provided by the applicant. And if such information subsequently proves to be false, deceptive, incompetent, and inaccurate, the permit may be modified, suspended, or revoked. Number 8, all permits issued by the agency are subject to and do not delegate any present or future rights or powers of the agency or the town of Newington, and convey no rights in the real estate or material, nor any exclusive privileges, and are further subject to any and all public and private rights to federal, state, and municipality laws, regulations pertinent to the subject land or activity. Sorry about that. I'm reading off my phone, so it's a little small. Number 9, in conjunction with the authorized activities, communities shall implement, shall manage, practice consistent with the terms and conditions of the permit as needed to control stormwater discharges and to prevent erosion and sedimentation, to otherwise prevent pollution of wetlands and watercourses. This permit is valid for wetlands only. In addition, approves permits may be required from other town departments, states, or federal agencies. It is responsibility of the applicant to verify what other approved permits may require for this project. Subsequent to the shrub and tree plans, an inspection of the plant area should be conducted by biologists to determine the placement and variety of the shrub and tree planting. Additional yearly inspections of the plant area should be conducted during the growing season for at least 3 subsequent years, and certain viable rates report the findings. Wait, hold on, where'd I go? Try to read off my phone.
Yep.
Where are we at? Number.
Still on A.
Report.
Yep.
All right. Reports document the findings of the inspections, including the presence of any invasive species, shall be provided to the Town of Newington Conservation Commission. If mortality rates of the plant exceeds 15%, the plant shall be replaced. With a written report of the inspection shall be provided to the Conservation Commission throughout the wetland agents. Invasive species to be removed from the upland review area, plant and sites noted as the following: north of the building, number 1, middle pond, and southeasterly of the building 4 and 5 for a period of 5 years. An invasive species management plan should be provided to the Conservation Commission by the applicant prior to the approval merely being signed by the chairman. Number D, the plan shall be revised to show the conservation easements on the final plans.
One more.
All right, one more. Reading off the phone, so be patient. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Conservation easements shall be recorded on the land records within 30 days after the final plans have been submitted for signature by the chairman.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Wagner. May I have a second?
I'll second it. John Bouchon.
Second by Commissioner John Bouchant. Final discussion? Ms. Gibbons, please call the roll.
Commissioner Ancona,
Yes.
Commissioner Bouchon,
Yes.
Commissioner Casasanta,
No.
Commissioner Conway,
No.
Commissioner Paskowitz, Alan,
Sorry, I was muted. No.
Chairman Sadil,
Yes.
Commissioner Wagner.
Yes.
4 yes, 3 no.
Thank you, Ms. Gibbons.
You're welcome.
Thank you all very much.
Yeah, thank you.
That was my 9-year-old. Thank you.
All right, moving on to public participation on non-agenda items. Each speaker limited to 2 minutes. Is there anyone on the line?
No one has. their hand
Mr. Chair,
raised.
no one has their hands raised.
Thank you. Moving on to item A, communications and reports. Item A, agent communications. Mr. Hinckley, do you have anything to report?
Yes, I've done a number of agent approvals the last couple months. I probably neglected to tell you last month. I had an agent approval for a deck at 126 Mountain View Drive. An agent approval for a detached garage in the URA at 15 Fisk Drive. An agent approval for a porch replacement in the URA at 23 Schoolhouse Road. An agent approval for a building addition and that using a helical pile, so it just augers into the ground, in the URA at 66 Patriot Lane. Also recently, last week, had an agent approval for the installation of some storage racks for outdoor material at 60 Holmes Road. I also like to report that the prior application approved at 72 Wells Drive North. That work has been completed. The chips have been removed. The debris has been removed from the brook. The plantings have been installed and the silt fence is also installed. that's what I have.
Thank you. Moving on to item B, Town Council Liaison Communications. Councilwoman Bedrejko, anything to report?
No, between the election and the swearing in and whatever, there hasn't really been a lot of business, so.
Everybody just
Nothing.
exhaling now, huh?
Exactly.
All right, thank you. Item C, Pond Life Research and Education. Commissioner Paskowitz, do you have anything to report for the commission this month?
No, I do not at this month. Thank you.
All right, so motion to adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Everybody wants
I'll
to
make a
stay?
motion. I'll make a motion to adjourn. Commissioner
Moved by
Conway.
Commissioner Conway. May I have a second?
I
Second,
second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Paskowitz. All in favor, voice vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Have a good night, all.
Have
Thank
a
you.
nice night. Have a happy
Good night,
Thanksgiving.
good night.
That's right.
Enjoy,
Happy
everyone.
Thanksgiving.
Good night.